Mabuhay. Our group is divided into two teams, which are the intelligence team and the investigators. The investigators will then discuss this controversial case of the first cry of rebellion of the Katipunan, whether it happened on Balintawak or in Pugadlawin. The phrase cry originally related to the first clash between Katipunan members and civil guards or Guardia Civil. The cry could also refer to the ripping up of cedulas or community tax certificates as a form of protest against Spanish government. The cry was also referenced in inscriptions such as Viva la Independencia Filipina, which were literally followed by patriotic shouts. The rebellion cry symbolizes the beginning of the Philippine Revolution against Spanish colonizers. However, there are differing accounts from different eyewitnesses as to where and when the cry occurred. This event was officially recognized on August 26 in Balintawak from 1808 to 1963. Finally, in 1963, the Philippine government declared a change in Pugadlawin, Quezon City from August 26 to August 23, which known became as the Cry of Pugadlawin. As the investigation goes deeper, here are several accounts from persons involved providing different dates and places where the cry happened. Olegario Diaz, an officer of the Spanish Civil Guard, stated that the cry happened in Balintawak on August 25, 1896. Historian Teodoro Calao wrote in his 1925 book entitled The Filipino Revolution that the cry took place during the final week of August 1896 at Kangkong, Balintawak. Santiago Alvarez, a Katipunero and a son of Mariano Alvarez, who was a leader of the Magdiwang faction in Cavite, stated in 1927 that the cry happened at Bahay Toro, now in Quezon City, on August 24, 1896. Pio Valenzuela, Andres Bonifacio's closest associate, declared in 1948 that the event took place on August 23, 1896 in Pugadlawin. Gregoria de Jesus, Andres Bonifacio's wife at that time, recalls August 25 in 1896 at Pasong Tamo, Caloocan, where the first cry happened. Despite the fact that several stories confirmed the date and place of the first cry, these two persons of interest, together with their proof, were discovered during our inquiry. Let's have a take look at some of the resources available.
For the internal criticism for the cry of Balintawak, who produced it? The author of the Cry of Balintawak is made by Soledad Borromeo Bueller. She helped resolve the controversy by analyzing eyewitnesses, accounts, and contemporary documents, heretofore unquoted, misquoted, or misinterpreted. The reconstruction of what transpired in Balintawak is when the Katipuneros led by Andres Bonifacio assembled in Puok, Kangkong 22 to 26 August 1896. The author demonstrates that the cry of Pugadlawin is a hoax. The cry of Balintawak consists of 212 pages, and students, researchers, and historians are the beneficiary for this study. Who was the recipients? Filipinos and foreign people who wish to know more about the Philippine history. When was it translated? The Cry of Balintawak annotated documents, most of which have been translated into English, are presented for reference. Are there any biases? Based on the main proofs and documents by various people participating in the Cry of Balintawak, we can all say that the dates of the actual cry date have been differently declared. Individuals of that time differ in time and time compared to people today. They don't have a gadget to automatically remind themselves at their beck and call what time and the day that day is. Someone might remember vividly what happened, but not the day. For the external criticism for the Cry of Balintawak, number 1, Ateneo de Manila Press. It was established in 1972 at Ateneo de Manila University. As you can see at the bottom of the paper, the logo of Ateneo de Manila University was evident. Ateneo de Manila University Press was established in 1972, which aimed to expand their study through written, extensively researched, and excellent produced books. Number 2. Soledad Borromeo Bueller, a PhD in History at University of California, Berkeley. Taught History at the University of the Philippines before leaving for US on a Fulbright High scholarship at 1965 to 1966. She was also a contributor to the Journal of Southeast Asian Studies and the Asian Studies. Soledad Borromeo Bueller is also a granddaughter of Guillermo Masangkay, a Katipunerio who worked closely with Andres Bonifacio from the earliest days of the Katipunan. Number 3. Consistency. The chronological dates, events, and places said that the book were all consistent. Number 4. The book is in a form of both soft copy and hard copy. This book is available to various libraries in the Philippines, and you can also avail it through the National Bookstore and Amazon and other online stores in the Philippines. Internal criticism for the Cry of Pugadlawin. Who produced it? The author of Silent Conspiracy, Memoirs of a Misunderstood Hero is none other than Deciree Aranas. The author concluded that Paulo's main contribution to revolution leadership was Dr. Pio Valenzuela, one of the leading lights of the Katipunan and one of the three who composed its secret chamber, along with Andres Bonifacio and Emilio Jacinto. The Silent Conspiracy Memoirs of Misunderstood Hero consists of 104 pages. The students, researchers, and historians are the beneficiary for this study. Who was the recipients? Filipinos and other foreign people who's interested with Philippine history. The book is only translated in English language. Next is the external criticism. Number 1. Museo Valenzuela Foundation. Museo Valenzuela Foundation is a museum in Valenzuela located in Metro Manila. It is a historical and cultural landmark that was named after Dr. Pio Valenzuela and established in 1998. Number 2. Messenger Mario de Jesus Arenas. He studied at University of Santo Tomas with AB Philosophy on 1975, Bachelor in Sacred Theology on 1978, and Licentiate in Sacred Theology at 1981, and also MA in Higher Religious Education on 1981. He taught church history and pastoral management, and he's one of the people who helped build the Museo Valenzuela and coordinated with some politicians to form fundraising activities to collect some additional funds for the building of the museum. The museum features the historical plays and heroism of Dr. Pio Valenzuela.
Let us now examine the book content. Silent Conspiracy, Memoirs of a Misunderstood Hero. Dr. Pio Valenzuela's account about the events in Pugadlawin states, it was in the house, storehouse, and yard of Juan Ramos, the son of Melchora Aquino in Pugadlawin, that over 1,000 members of the Katipunan met and debated on August 23, 1896. During the meeting held, the most important event that has shaped the Philippines. First is the tearing up of the community tax certificates or cédulas personales. It is the Spaniards' identification card for the Filipinos, in which tearing them by the Katipunan symbolizes their cry for freedom and the start of rebellion. After tearing those cédulas, it was followed by the cries or shouts of Viva la Independencia Filipina or Long Live Philippine Independence. The events stated here to showcase the first cry where the Katipunans have all agreed and confirmed to defy the alliance between the Spaniards, which has sparked the Philippine Revolution against them. To contextualize the event, Dr. Pio Valenzuela believed that the first cry was on Pugadlawin, where Juan Ramos lived on August 23, 1896. The event happened because Filipinos were experiencing heavy struggles from the oppressors and colonizers. Andres Bonifacio formed a secret organization to resist colonialism and bring freedom to the motherland. The author wanted to validate the memoirs of Dr. Pio Valenzuela, knowing that he has been the trusted eyewitness of the event who is still able to make his memoir and help research the Philippine Historical Committee in the 1940s. This led to changing the date from August 26, 1896 to August 23, 1896, the day the Katipuneros assembled to defy the Spaniards. We have another source that contradicts to Pio Valenzuela's account, which is The Cry of Balintawak by Soledad Borromeo, narrating the events that Guillermo Magsangkay remembers. The first cry in Magsangkay's perspective is on August 26, 1896 in Apollonios Samson home in Balintawak. This statement was documented thanks to the support from various eyewitnesses who was there during Andres and the Katipuneros staring the cedulas and crying for long-live independence of the Philippines. It also states that the different officers present in the meeting, like Bonifacio, Aguedo del Rosario, Tomas Remigo, Brico Pantas, Teodoro Plata, Pio Valenzuela, including Emilio Jacinto, the secretary who recorded the minutes of the meeting, all corresponds to Guillermo Magsangkay's account. Dr. Valenzuela's and Guillermo Magsangkay's testimonies are still the same. The difference, however, is according to the date and location. Before 1963, historians recorded and the government agreed that the first cry occurred on August 26, 1896 in Balintawak. As Guillermo Magsangkay, Andres Bonifacio's advisor and childhood friend stated, in which was supported by Lieutenant Oligorio Diaz and General Santiago V. Alvarez, who wrote their own memoirs and gave accounts about the event. However, decades later, Dr. Pio Valenzuela was still alive, and he stated in his memoir that it was held on August 23, 1896 at Pugadlawin. Influenced by this, the National Historical Institute and President Diosdado Macapagal changed the date and place due to Dr. Pio Valenzuela's influence. But in any case, the importance of the event remains the same. The Katipunan unanimously resolution to resist the Spanish tyranny and achieve independence for the Philippines, which has changed the course of our history to where we are now.
The ability to envision the future is strongly influenced by the memory of the past. These events vitalized the unity of the Filipino people and brought a thirst for independence. It was the turning point when the Filipinos finally refused Spanish colonial dominion over the Philippine Islands. With tears in their eyes, the people as one pulled out their cedulas and tore them into pieces. It was not easy for them to regain their freedom from the Spaniards. Cry of Balintawak or Pugadlawin reflects rebellion, hope, struggles, bravery, freedom, and love for the country. Whether it is Cry of Pugadlawin or Cry of Balintawak, what really matters is they show rebellion, fight with everything they have, and gain their independence. We should acknowledge and honor all sacrifices of the Filipinos who joined the revolution, and for us to appreciate and make it meaningful. They show the unity that comes from their veins, to lead on their own and not a slave in their own country. The cry is brought people from different backgrounds to be as one. This is the essence of what they have done to change the course of our history. Being able to examine the point of view of Cry of Balintawak and Pugadlawin, it helps us to know which one is valid and reliable. It enables us to be curious about something. Therefore, it might resolve the controversy which was a long-time issue of our country. Histories might be complicated, but here, we challenge our critical thinking to analyze, enhance, and figure out issues for us to have an answer. But we know one thing as true as it ever was, the significance or value of achieving Philippine independence. History might be imprinted in one's mind that will allow to gain different valuable perspectives. All the experiences will always bring out a hint on how to handle and accept things that are happening. It makes us not to forget and take responsibility for the choices we make today. This will promote historical tourism trees as one of their origins that symbolizes during the revolution that people will be enticed to visit and see. It will be recalled when people hear the word cry of rebellion, and this will help not just the tourism industry but also the patriotism and bravery of their ancestors who sacrificed their lives just to have the freedom that we are experiencing up to this day.
Before we officially close this case based on our investigation, we have concluded that our team stands within the cry of Balintawak. Based from our primary and secondary sources, it is always leading us to Balintawak. If we're going to look closely at it, Pugad and Balintawak have the same events. It just differs from how stories have been told and when it really happened. There are two interpretations of cry, which is steering the cedula. Second was the start of revolt, and that is where they base on the date of the cry. When it comes to confusion of dates and even controversies, this has never been tackled during earlier years. There were several stories, accounts, but we chose to focus on these two people who really knew Andres Bonifacio like no other. Like Tio Valenzuela, he stated on his memoir that it happened August 23, 1896. And this was also supported by Teodoro Goncillo. He relied to Valenzuela since he has been the witness during that time. But on the other hand, Guillermo Mangsanghay says that it was August 26, 1896, which could be a little bit misleading to those students who will be studying history. They'll be needing a deeper research to this topic. Although there were dates stated by the government, the facts and evidences that historians gather leads to Balintawak as well. From 1908 until 1963, the official stance was the cry occurred in August 26, Balintawak. Suddenly, in 1963, in order to avoid confusion, the National Historical Commission of the Philippines declared a shift to August 23 in Pugadlawin, Quezon City. There have been many dates that were debated, but the NHCP have come up with their final decision that we have to accept it since it was already being celebrated for years and people have accepted that it was the cry of Pugadlawin. We know how dates can be helpful, but we should not forget that what really happened, and the important thing that we should remember is that Bonifacio and Katipuneros had teared up their cedulas to symbolize freedom, cutting the ties around our hands that keep us the freedom and independence that we want. The cry was such an important event that changed our lives forever. It showed how Filipinos must stand from our oppressors, fight for what is right because it could leave a big impact on the future. We could all learn from this that not everything we see or hear is legit. For us to find out the truth, we must seek it on our own. We must find statements, articles that will lead you to the answer you are looking for. The cry of Balintawak is a good example of the line the past may be the truth in the future. This helps us to be critical thinkers, to double check the facts that we hold from primary sources, secondary sources as well. But let us all remember that being able to be free was the main event that will be remembered. So there may be different dates, places, but the fact that we were able to surpass the challenges that we have been faced by the Spaniards will never be forgotten. So, the Katipuneros in the cry of Balintawak went through a lot of debates, discussions against Spaniards' governments, which shows their determination in gaining freedom and leading their own country.